Siupervisors of September 17th. Supervisor Chadwick, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to public comment. This time is for information from the public. On matters not appearing on the agenda, all comments are limited to 3 minutes and must pertain to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. When addressing the board, please state your name for the record and address the board as a whole through the chair. No action or discussion will be conducted on matters not listed on the agenda. The chair may refer the subject matter to the appropriate department, follow up or schedule the matter on a subsequent board agenda. Good morning, John.
I've been getting things on emails from different organizations on this bill that's sitting on the governor's desk on independent contractors, which is, they're all complaining about truck drivers, but it's for any independent contractor, including the ones that work for the county, and they will become employees. So it even affects the Trinity Journal with their columnists and stuff. So it's something that I would like the board to talk the governor in not signing the bill, because it's going to affect a lot of people. Something to think about.
Do you have a number of the bill?
It's AB5.
No, I don't have the
It's AB5,
It is, yeah.
Thank you.
and I believe it's on the governor's desk.
Right. Oh, anyone else? Okay.
Good morning. My name is Ann Bales, and I'm here representing many of our people from the state of Jefferson, but people from the county. Today is September 17th, as you know, and it's 232 years ago today that our Constitution was signed and declared as giving us the inalienable, not giving us, but identifying that we have inalienable rights. And one of those rights stated in the Bill of Rights is our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. And so over the past few months, we've collected over 160 signatures from people within our county that would like you as a board to put a resolution together that you will see that Trinity County is a Second Amendment safe county, that our rights are honored and not violated here. And, you know, we look at some of the unconstitutional laws that have been put forward by our state, and that's what we're working against. We need to defend ourselves and have that right to defend ourselves. You can't use a piece of firearm without ammunition. Some of the new rules that are coming forward, we've heard this at some of our meetings and also at our events, are even putting stipulations on people to buy their ammunition here within our own state, needing special certification, special cards, the new driver's license that is for the state. But what we know that Siskiyou County in 2011 put forward their resolution that they would protect Second Amendment rights of their citizens, and we're looking forward to seeing our county do the same, if you would consider that. I do have a sample from the resolution that was put forward in Siskiyou County, but I'd like to run that past our citizens and then put that forward, give that to you as a board to consider whether you would be willing to do that. Thank you. And I felt it was a need for me to come forward because we've been collecting these signatures, and I don't want people to think we've collected signatures and just have a piece of paper that we throw somewhere. Their signature means something. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Someone else.
Kay Graves from Lewiston. Today I brought, and if the board would like some, I could pull them set aside, but I don't want people to take them unless they're going to use them. I brought copies of the California Constitution. It also has the U.S. Constitution, the Act entering California into the Union, the Magna Carta, a lot of other documents, the Declaration of Independence, other declarations our founders wrote, and I've been meaning to bring these in, and I remembered on Constitution Day. So there's a box in the back, If people would like them, they can help themselves. If they run out, I have more copies at home. I just brought one box. You can get these if you wrestle them from their cold dead hands. You can get them from our assemblyman and our state senator. Actually, this year was the first year I got them without threatening to go down again and getting them. So maybe they're getting better about sending them. So they could send them to you. The taxpayers already paid for these, so there's no extra cost involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still in Hayford, California. I feel like I'm wasting my time coming over here and coming before you for these last 7 trips trying to get this initiative for adjusting taxes against the people. So I feel like I'm getting nowhere. I want to put on the agenda. I want to be notified when it is. My mailing address is Post Office Box 1283, Hayford, California. Our forefathers that repelled from the mother country, our mother country, because of the same situation that's going on right here in Trinity County. The continued raising of taxes and initiating new taxes and doing it without proper violation of the Constitution here and taking note of it. I can leave my Constitution book here with you. You can read it. Come up with the same situation I did. As far as the person that got property they've had for 30 years without losing it due to not paying their taxes and having it rented or sold, they get a benefit of having a tax repelled. That's a benefit that they earn. Many of them with tough times earning it right here in Trinity County. That's all I got to say today. I get back with you at 4 o'clock.
Okay. Jim, is this specifically regarding the 30-year and not paying property taxes on it? And you've requested that this be agendized. I'm listening to you today.
No,
That's
it is-
specifically what you're requesting.
Also, the initiation of tax on Amendment 1111A.
Okay.
Where
This is probably the 3rd time that I've heard that you asked this be agendized, so I'm going to,
Well, if you recall,
I do recall.
we
That's-
asked that CAO and county council kind of meet with him on the side just to kind of vet out exactly the issue. So I don't know if you guys have had a chance to meet with him.
Well, I understand you're having a meeting today about the dump fees.
No.
No, not
So-
about today.
Maybe today, while you're here, you guys could sort out what can and can't be done from the jurisdiction of this board.
If you'll please stick around, we usually don't leave.
The procedures that they have to go through.
Please stick around and meet with these two and we can sort some things out, hopefully.
Okay, but I'll still put the request out there to have this agendized if you can't come up with it and
I
poll the
appreciate
board to see
that.
if they'd like it agendized.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anybody else for public comment? Okay. Yep, Mark?
Hi, my name is Margarita Alvord. I'm here representing a coalition called PATH, Partners in Action for Trinity Health. And I'm going to read to you a letter to the Board of Supervisors. And this is in regards to the Trinity County Food Bank and the Trinity Community Food Outreach Program. And I have copies of these letters for you guys. Dear Trinity County Board of Supervisors and other Trinity County officials, we, the members of Trinity County PATH, Partners in Action for Trinity Health, would like to voice our support for the integral position created and maintained by Jeff England in relation to the Trinity County Food Bank and the Trinity Community Food Outreach Program. We are aware that Mr. England delivers to 16 sites throughout the county and has over 375 seniors signed up to receive boxes each month. Connecting with Feed America, he has also been able to procure food for various food pantries, soup kitchens, and senior centers so that the free food is divided equally and distributed amongst them all, thereby tripling the amount of food that is now reaching the seniors, low-income individuals, and families of Trinity County. As a coalition that monitors, supports, and aids all aspects of Trinity Health in Trinity County, we have seen how important Mr. England's work is to the people of our county in dire need of food assistance. Without his aid, we will see a decrease in provision to the hungry people of our community, as well as the increase in food insecurity and the many problems that come with it, including but not limited to hunger, health and nutrition deficiencies, toxic stress, economic hardship, and adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. We would like this correspondence to serve as a formal letter of support for continuing his position and further sustainability of the work done through Trinity County Food Bank and Trinity Community Food Outreach Program for our community. Please see the information that I'm going to hand out to you regarding ACEs. You could look it up on www.cdc.gov/violence prevention/child abuse and neglect/ACEs study. And that's the end of our letter. We really love Jeff. We love what he does. And I don't know where I can leave these, but there's the letter along with some information about adverse childhood experiences. Wow. I didn't know I was going to make 3 minutes. Thanks.
And I'm happy to talk to you after what has been discussed. And
Okay.
you're also welcome to talk to our CAO, what the board has done, and
What time will that be?
a break when we take a break.
Okay.
It's a short agenda, so it shouldn't be that long.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay, moving on to presentations. Item 1.1. Receive a presentation from Associate Vice President Eva Samaras. Sorry, I'm juggling with one hand here. With Shasta College regarding the Shasta College Step Up program.
Good morning, Madam Chair and fellow board members. I'm pleased to bring before you this morning Eva Jimenez, the Associate Vice President of Shasta College, who's going to discuss the Step Up program. Step Up is one of the programs and services that we're planning to incorporate in our new adult day reporting center scheduled to begin later this year. Also in the audience here is Robert Bowman, who's the Step Up coordinator, and also Rayola Pratt, one of the board of trustees with Shasta College. So before I turn the microphone over to Eva, I'd like to just take a moment to mention the significance of not only having a day reporting center here in Trinity County, but specifically having programs such as this be a part of it. Our local data shows a significant difference in success rates between individuals who are on probation and those that are on post-prison release supervision. And without adequate and meaningful services and programs to reach this latter group, I'd expect this trend to continue. Trinity County's overall 2018 recidivism rates for our adult probation population stands at only 10.5%, while our recidivism rates with post-state or local county jail prison commitments, your 1170Hs and your PRCS populations, is double that, or 21.4%, with an even higher revocation rate when you take into consideration returns to custody for technical violations of terms and conditions of supervision. That's actually up to 40%. In my over 30 years of community corrections, one thing that I've learned is that the most successful individuals are those that want something to happen more than they don't want something to happen. In other words, those that have told me my number one goal is to not go back to prison, well, guess what? they usually end up right back in prison. But those that say that I want to finish my education, I want to get a vocational degree, or I want to meet some other life milestone, those are the ones that usually succeed and aren't returned to prison. Our problem here in Trinity County is the significant lack of these opportunities for this particular population, which sets the stage for a great partnership such as this one. And with that being said, I'll hand it over to Eva for the presentation.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here this morning and to give you a little bit of information regarding our Step Up program. And thank you to Chief Rogers and Sheriff. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here for the invitation. So I'm just going to quickly, I was told I have 15 minutes and I like to talk, so make sure that you give me a signal of some sort when my time is almost up. How's that? So I've had the pleasure of working at Shasta College for close to 18 years, and through my journey there at Shasta College, we've been able to really be creative in terms of working with our community partners on several projects. But this is one that is really near and dear to my heart, because it's about truly giving those individuals who probably didn't have hope at any point in time in their lives some hope and a second chance, and for some it's a first chance at something new and something different in terms of changing their lives forever. So Step Up, it is an acronym, but Step Up essentially is a partnership with local law enforcement, community education, social services, and so you can see it's a community that comes together behind our students to ensure that they are successful throughout their education. We focus on individuals who have a history and have been formerly incarcerated, and substance abuse is also a focus point for us. These are our partners today in Step Up. As you can see, quite a few partners. We have been working with, obviously, Shasta County now for 6 years, and Tehama County came on board about 1.5 years ago, and then we started talking to Trinity County, I would say about 8 months ago, when we came up here and had our first conversation about bringing Trinity under the Step Up umbrella. So again, I just want to point out that it is a community. We also have Butte County Office of Education, and you're wondering, well, that's not Shasta County, it's Butte County. But they actually oversee the parole program, so we now started working with parole as well. Good News Rescue Mission, I think you're all pretty familiar with their mission and what they're doing for our community. We definitely partnered with them early on. And CHIBA is California Heritage Youth Field Academy, and they're the folks that take folks from the age of 14 to 23, and if they did not have their high school diploma, they actually help them achieve their high school diploma and also teach them trades in building. And they partner up with Shasta Builders Exchange and Meeks, and they learn how to frame and do construction trades. So I want to give you a little bit of the past and where we're at today, and again, just really emphasize the importance of community behind a successful program. And that's why I'm here today, to ensure that, again, that the chief and sheriff feel supported, and more importantly, supported by their community as we navigate these new waters with Step Up. So this all started in 2013 with a phone call. Sometimes it's just a phone call that gets the wheels in motion. And our local sheriff, Sheriff Basenko, in 2013 called me and said, Eva, would you consider bringing Shasta College courses into our jail? And he wanted us to offer culinary courses. There were a number of reasons why that didn't work in terms of bringing classes into jail, mostly logistical issues, and to be completely honest, our faculty did not feel safe going into a jail and offering culinary courses where there are knives in the kitchen. So rightfully so, we respected that, and I thought to myself, well, let's turn this around, and how about we bring out some of your inmates to our campus who are low-risk offenders and allow them to come out and take courses. So we actually surveyed all 323 beds at the time, surveyed the inmates and asked them, if you were given an opportunity to pursue education, which programs would you be interested in? So we wanted to make sure they had a voice, because they need to be invested as Chief was saying, in terms of they needed to make that choice. And through that survey and through talking to our industry partners and also pulling LMI data, labor market information data, in terms of the jobs that were out there, we were able to narrow down 5 particular programs that the students could pursue once they touched our campus. Our first cohort started in 2014, and Sheriff Basenko was the first sheriff to take a risk and allow these inmates to come out on a work release program, but their work was to actually get an education. So that counted as their work release. And they all had ankle monitors. The cohort was made up of 20 inmates, again, low-risk offenders, who literally from one day went from a cell to a campus. As you can imagine, we had some issues with that, but again, we learned, right? It was a pilot program, and so in 2015-16, we implemented some best practices. We learned that inmates would not be successful, or students couldn't be successful without the student success skills that they needed, how to be a student, how to survive on their own, how to pay bills, how to pay for rent, how to balance education and life, and how to make the right choices as well. So we partnered with Good News Rescue Mission and offered student success courses in the summer before they were allowed to start taking classes in the fall. During this time, I actually received a phone call from Stanford University. We were featured in the Sheriff's Journal in terms of this new innovative program called Step Up. So Stanford read that, gave me a call, and wanted to learn more about it. And it was through that one phone call that I was able to gain their interest, and then they decided that they were going to start funding our program. And so we received a grant from the Opportunity Institute, which is a partnership between Berkeley and Stanford, and they brought together 7 foundations, one of them being the Ford Foundation, Bill Gates Foundation, who invested quite a bit of money into restorative justice programs. And so Shasta College was one of those recipients, and that's when the grant came into play in 2016-17, and that's when I was able to hire dedicated staff. So I was a dean at the time during these years, the dean over career technical education programs, and I had a full-time job, that being a dean, and trying to run this program was really difficult, but hiring dedicated staff really made it successful in what it is today, the growth. So we went from 20 students, and I just want to say, in 2013, the cohort was 20, if you recall. Of the 20, we had 1 graduate at the end of that year. And some would say, just 1? I say, yes, absolutely. That 1 individual will never go back to jail, will never go back to a cell again. And it changed her life forever. And to me, that's all I needed. That's all we needed, was to have 1 successful candidate, but we had 11 of the 20 continue on. They just didn't finish their certificate in that 1 year, but we had 11 continue on with their education. So we knew that there was hope there, and again, it was a model that needed some tweaking, and we were able to work through some of those best practices. So we received a grant here that allowed us to hire Robert Bowman, our program director, and a coordinator. And then we were able to increase our cohort to 50 students. In 2017-18, we then presented to our Community Corrections Partnership, and we all have those in our community, our CCP, and they, again, we went with the data, we went with some testimonials, our students presented, and they were very supportive because they finally found a program that worked, right, in terms of truly restorative rehabilitation. They had the support system to get them through it, and then they were able to match the grant. They used some of those CCP dollars, and then we took the cohort to 100 students with that particular grant. So again, back to my point about the community being behind us. In 2018-19, we received an innovation grant from our chancellor's office. We became a state model, and we were awarded an innovation award for being innovative. And again, when we first started in 2013, we were one of 2 campuses across the state of California that offered restorative justice programs. Now today, current day, we have 37 campuses across the state of California that offer restorative justice programs. And with this grant, I have been tasked with replicating our model on 10 other campuses across the state. I am working with 5 today. We'll get the other 5 in 2020. So just wanted to just give you a little bit of the program and how it is that we were awarded and where we're standing today. So it's really exciting time for us. These are the programs that, again, our students can select in terms of pathways based on interest and employment. Most of these, again, are CTE, Career Technical Education programs, but as of last year, we started to allow students to enter into the social sciences part of the world, which is really exciting. Of all of these programs, the one that is most sought out, and you wouldn't probably guess, but the #1 program is heavy equipment operations. That is, I would say, Billy, about 70% of our students, over 70% of our students pursue this particular degree and certificate. And believe it or not, this is the only program that mandates a drug test as well. At the beginning, and also there are random drug tests throughout the year. And again, all of our students are aware of this, but I believe not only is it because they do get the jobs, but more importantly, it's accountability as well of staying clean. Here's some impressive stats, at least in my opinion. Our average age of our students is 36. They all must enroll in full-time, 12 units. Our recidivism rate is 12%. That's of our program. We now have 115 students in the program. When we added Tehama, we were able to jump up to 115. And then, of course, they take advantage of other programs on our campus like EOPS and PACE. Just, again, I'd like to remind the community that, at least for Shasta County, I'm not sure what it is for Trinity County, Chief, you may know, but it costs $40,000 to house one offender in our jail a year. And for education, at least 1 year at Shasta College, it's $24,000. But keep in mind that most, I would say 100% of these students qualify for federal aid. And then whatever federal aid they aren't receiving, we offset with grant dollars. So our grant dollars help pay for textbooks, welding supplies, anything that they need to be successful, we are able to provide through the grant dollars outside of their federal aid. We also pay for their drug tests and anything that they need for their education. Our makeup of our 115 students, again, this is the makeup of who refers students to us today. This is today. At the beginning of the program, again, 2013, 100% came from the Sheriff's Department. But then we quickly learned that it was probation who was really our key partner through this. We found that once they were released, and oftentimes even if they started as inmates, throughout the semester their sentence was termed and then they became probation clients anyway. So probation really is our #1 referral program today. And we have a dedicated probation officer that we are able to fund through our grant. So there's a full-time probation officer that works with our campus staff and with our students. Some more stats, I think, again, we've had 75 total graduates from Step Up at Shasta College. Of the 75, 77% of them have gained employment, full-time employment. Their average GPA is 2.89, and that should be, it was 14%, but as of spring, it's now 12%. So we're going down the right way, right? We're going fewer numbers, which is great. This is our graduates, again, to show you one graduate the first year, but now as you can see, again, we had over 35 graduates in 2018-19. Here they are. This was spring and May of this year. These are step-up graduates. This gentleman right here was our keynote speaker. His name is Chef Jeff Henderson. He is a celebrity chef, has his own Food Network show, and he himself was incarcerated in federal prison, actually, and learned how to be a cook in prison, and is now traveling the world, kind of sharing his story, and he's an entrepreneur, and again, has his own chef show, Food Network show, and also has several businesses throughout the nation, actually. So he came and again delivered a fabulous keynote, and these are our students. Proud moment. I also want to say that our students really want this, back to the chief's comment about they really need to want this. We do our part, but really they do all the hard work, right? They need to want to change. And many of them are actually, half of them are working while going to school. In addition to, again, carrying a full load, they are so committed that they also go out and find a job to ensure that they have the resources that they need. Again, postgraduate employment is 77%. And this is important as well. I mean, I don't know, I could ask the question, how many of you who graduated with a certain degree are actually working within that field? And very few raise their hand and say, yes, I'm a graduate, I have my MBA, my master's in business, and I always wanted to work overseas, but here I am working in education, right? But you just never know what your path is. But 74% of our students actually are working within their field of study, which is really impressive. And again, a majority in the heavy equipment program, because the jobs are out there. And again, we have a great relationship with our industry partners who hire our students. I have, at least 75 success stories that I could share with you from our 75 graduates, but this is one that is near and dear to my, just because this gentleman, if you know him, you could just feel his energy and his passion for this program. He's a 49-year-old male with a history of DUI, and he actually was a police officer. That was his path, and because of life-changing events, he turned to alcohol, unfortunately, and it happens to, again, it can happen to anyone. He made some poor choices. And then he ended up going through our step-up program and pursued a welding degree, 4.0 GPA student, and I can tell you today that he is now employed at Shasta College and works for our welding department. Again, we have many stories to share about students who are successful, and we truly do change their lives. We have received a number of awards and recognitions. I won't go through them, but just again to show you how committed we are as an institution to this program, and our staff, and more importantly, our faculty who work with these students day in and day out are truly connected and committed to Step Up. So with that, before I wrap it up, I do want to show one video of our faculty member just to give you a little bit of their passion behind the program. So if you don't mind, Tina, it's the one with the faculty member.
So when a student comes to us in the Step Up program, they have had to have been formerly incarcerated. The main thing we give them is hope. People like me come alongside of them and say, Step Up program, they have had to
Technology. Oh, cute dog. Okay.
How sure was that?
Yeah.
who have been formerly incarcerated. The main thing we give them is hope. People like me come alongside of them and say, I'm going to walk you through this chapter of your life. You get to create the future, and it's your choice in my program because it's we're working around heavy construction equipment, bulldozers, motor graders, excavators. They have to wear certain safety gears that OSHA requires. Step Up buys all that for them so that they can come in, not be deciding, hey, do I eat a meal today or do I buy a hard hat? One student in particular who just finished the program, and he's landed a really good job here in the Reading area. His little son, who is now 8, had been court ordered to be put up for adoption. And I told him, I said, we're not going to let that happen. We're going to communicate with the judge and see if they will reconsider. Myself and some other folks wrote letters to this judge, and because of that student's involvement here in the program, getting certified, getting a good job, he will get his son back next month, and they'll be reunited. If you don't see them as valuable people and the potential that they can become, then it's easy to get frustrated and give up hope on it. But the reality is they've got tremendous potential, and they just need somebody to help them walk through this, I like to say, season of life to get to that next season. The difference between then in the 90s when we didn't have step up, and now is like night and day in our success. The students aren't falling through the cracks. So if I was sitting in a room with some students who were coming out of incarceration, and they were wondering, should I go into step up? Should I go into college? My advice is give it a chance. You'll probably be wonderfully surprised. You might experience something, success in an area that you've never ever experienced, and completely open up a new future for yourself. So give it a chance.
So hopefully you can feel, again, his passion for this program. And if you recall, I mentioned we have an innovation grant that we were awarded to replicate the model, and that's when I had a conversation with your local sheriff and chief about starting the program at the Trinity County. So with these dollars currently, as of last week, we have a signed MOU with the county and with probation, and we are funding the Adobo platform tablets, and it's a $25,000 investment for us to ensure that all of their needs are met in terms of giving them the tablet so the students can start their education while incarcerated and while going through probation. So that's the beginning of the partnership. We are definitely committed to this county and to your community, and so we will continue to have these conversations about what's next. And again, some of it will involve some creativity in terms of ensuring the students can be successful in these programs, but that's our starting point today. So with that, I think my time is up. We do have some handouts that I brought, and this is actually Billy Miller, and he's our extended education coordinator who we've hired. Has it been 6 months now, Billy?
It's been about
8 months.
It's flown by.
8 months. So he will be your point of contact. He works out of our Tehama campus and also will be your point of contact here at Trinity campus. So there are some handouts in our cards, but do you have any questions?
Board members?
Yes, thank you, and it's a great program, and I don't know how you have all managed to put it together. I do have one question. You referred to a probation officer that is being funded full-time on a grant. So if there's a chapter up here at the local college with the step up, does that probation officer also take on our students?
Yeah, that's a great question. So they are actually dedicated probation officer for Shasta County, and our CCP, the Community Corrections Partnership, actually helped fund that position. So it's something that we can present to your local CCP in terms of partnering with us and maybe doing a match fund or some kind of funding, but some of that needs to come from CCP, your local CCP program. Yeah. So, yeah. I will just leave
You're gonna
that.
have more work, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely work out the.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. That was all.
Supervisor Black?
I just want to say congratulations. I think it's really neat,
Thank
and
you.
it's nice to see something inspiring, so thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a couple questions, but it's not the right time for them, really. Thank you for doing this. Make sure to reach out to us, and thank you, Sheriff and Tim Probation, for bringing this forward. And help use Smart Center, Nortec, and
Yes.
whoever else you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Very good. Great presentation. Thank you for being involved with us.
Thank you for your time.
Is there any idea of using this program for at-risk youth who are a little bit older, either in high school or just out of high school, to put them on a career path versus going down the other path?
Yeah, I don't want to speak for your county, but I
Or
know
just
what
in
we do
general.
at Shasta. We actually are now starting to dab into the juvenile detention center, and so we're looking to gain some funding and start with online courses while they're in there to help the system and help their pathway. And Chiba, as I mentioned, they are the one partner that focuses with the youth.
Great. Thank you. Good presentation, Sarah Sachs and Tim. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to consent calendar. These items include routine, non-controversial matters and will be acted upon the board by one roll call motion. a member of the board, staff, or public may request an item to be pulled and considered separately. Board members?
2.5.
What was that?
2.5.
Thank you. Anybody, nothing else from the board, anyone for the public? Item to be pulled?
Better make sure my glasses. Kate Graves from Lewiston. I'd like to pull 2.9, 2.10, and 2.11.
All right. Are there something else? 2.6. Thank you. Got it. Okay.
With that, I move to accept the remaining consent calendar.
Thank you.
Second.
Great, thank you. Pull the board, please.
Supervisor Finley?
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Chadwick?
Aye.
Supervisor Moore?
Yes. All right. First item, pull 2.5, approve an agreement with Trinity County Visitors and Development Bureau, Trinity County Historical Society, Trinity County Arts Council, Weirville Chamber of Commerce, Newport Chamber of Commerce, Humboldt Trinity Recreation Alliance, and Trinity County Information Services to promote and advertise Trinity County as a tourist destination. $75,000 from the general fund in TOT funding. Okay, Supervisor Brooks?
Yeah, I would just like Dr. Coons give us a kind of brief rundown. Is this any drastic changes in this from the previous agreements? Just your brief rundown thought of what you did here.
Yeah, the major change is every organization is getting an increase this year from previous years. So that would be the major change. We met with each of the representatives, communicated with them through either email or in group meetings, and kind of negotiated this out as to what worked, what didn't work, and what would be appropriate for each organization. And in the end, everybody, the last correspondence we had with them, everybody was in agreement that this would be fair and equitable. We did change a little bit in the contracts, where normally we would send out one check and it could be distributed. This time we were sending out a check to each organization for half the allotment. And then they would be responsible, I have to remember what the date was, to report back to the board with a, what's it called, a coordinated management plan and their budget. Upon successful completion of that, we'll issue the second check. If they don't do that in a timely manner, then it's within the contract that we have authority to take that funding and redistribute it to those that have complied with the contract.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments? Okay, with that, we would entertain.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you were, are you skipping the public or are you ready for the public?
No.
Okay. I just had a question because the other chambers are on here, and I see Trinity County Visitor and Development Bureau is getting the lion's share, and I'm not sure what that is. I went and looked at their website. I see Kelly Gant has the corporation and has her name on it. I'm just not sure exactly what it is, and I'm wondering where Trinity County Chamber of Commerce is on this list and why it's not on there.
I believe the Trinity County Chamber is now the visitor center, and Ms. Gant is in the audience, so rather than speaking for her, ask her to come up and she can give a better definition. Thank you.
Good morning. Kelly Gann, I'm president of the chamber, and I'm also secretary of the Trinity Visitors Bureau. So I came and gave a presentation to you last year about how the chamber was changing. We have split the chamber tasks in two. So there's two different corporations. The chamber is focusing on traditional chamber activity, supporting our businesses, recruiting new businesses, helping our businesses, all of them, from a vet to a lodging owner to, the tire store. All the marketing part of what the chamber used to do is now in the Trinity County Visitors Bureau. And it hasn't been active because it hasn't had any funding. The chamber gave the Visitors Bureau $10,000 in seed money to do their marketing. And with that, they just approved last week, now that they have money, we're gonna be spinning up the Visitors Bureau. So we're gonna spend about $2,000 of that to co-op with the Shasta Cascade Wonderland. We're gonna do a big spread that they do every year in a magazine in Germany. Germany is the third largest international visitor to our area. We also co-oping, and we have a photographer from Canada coming down for $1,000. We're gonna get about 100 professional photos of Trinity County, which we desperately need, because without photography, you can't do any advertising. And then last year, the chamber did we went to 3 trade shows. We went to LA, San Diego, and Santa Clara. So the Visitors Bureau has been sitting there kind of stagnant, just in a corporation, just sitting there until it got funding, and now with the gracious donation, or granting of the money through the TOT, the Visitors Bureau will get spun up. Our goal is that most of the board will be the people who collect the TOT, so it would be the lodging owners, and then a couple of seats probably for recreation, and then a marketing expert. And all of the money that goes to the Visitors Bureau will be for destination marketing, nothing else. We have no members, we are keeping minimum insurance, we don't have an office, we don't have a phone. I mean, all the overhead we're keeping down to a minimum, and we're gonna put all of the money to market, to get people over 3 hours away to come to Trinity County. And most of it's gonna be with co-oping, with Shasta Cascade. Yesterday, I went and met with IXE, whatever their number is, Dave Cox, and we talked about them doing a video. One of the lodging owners is giving us their video that they shot of their facility. We can use their footage with those photos. We will, the TV station said they will help us craft together a more modern video that we can put online. They'll play on their TV station also. So, any questions about the 2 organizations? I know it's been kind of interesting as we split them all apart.
I just want to thank you for moving moving Trinity County in this dynamic direction.
Thank you. Thank you.
It sounds great.
Yeah, and then we're also doing that rehab of the Capitol, the display box at the county. I mean, down at the state. And just to let you know, we're not the only county that has a 20-year-old. I went to the Reading Chamber of Commerce meeting last night, and theirs is 26 years old. So they're redoing theirs, and Butte's redoing theirs, and Plumas is redoing theirs. So we're all kind of doing it together. So thanks.
Supervisor Groves, I think, has a question.
Yes, so, I'm not sure who this is to, but, so the Trinity County Chamber that is being split off doesn't receive any of the TOT?
No, I believe now they're the Trinity County Information Services, is that correct?
Travis Finch, I'm the president of Trinity County Information Service. When the Chamber of Commerce made the decision to close the visitor center, we formed a new nonprofit to keep that running. And so we have requested TOT funds as well. And we don't necessarily do destination marketing, but once those tourists get here, we are supportive of tourism because we provide them with brochures and things to do here locally. We also send out brochures and information to people who make requests by phone or through email. So,
thank you.
I think he's being a little modest too. They also receive a lot of calls from either Eureka, folks in Eureka or Reading that ask what the weather's like, if the lake is full, those type of things. So they make decisions based on coming to Trinity County on the phone calls they make with the information center.
Before the end of the year, I understand you'll meet with all the groups just to kind of review a coordinated effort and reduce duplication of efforts.
That's our goal, yes.
Okay. Great. Any other questions, board members? Okay. I would entertain a motion.
You've got a motion to approve 2.5 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone? So moved, thank you. Item 2.6, authorize the Victim Witness Department to purchase one passenger vehicle and direct administration to increase revenues and fixed assets by $30,000 in the final budget when brought back. Approximately $30,000 from the Victim Witness Grant.
So we have started getting some bids in and they're just coming in a little higher than we thought, so we are wanting to increase that to 35,000. It's still under the grant funds to pay for it, and it has, it's gotta be spent by the end of this month, so. That's why we're rushing to get it in, but we would like to increase it to 35,000.
So Margaret, a technical question, are we able to do that? The agenda language says 30?
No, let me just make sure I'm reading the agenda language right. We want to make it 35. What is before with budget adjustments? It's not an issue whether it can be done, it's an issue whether it was properly noticed. So do we have it as a budget adjustment? No, it's not a budget adjustment. It's,
Because we haven't brought the final budget back to you, to the board for approval yet, we're not doing a budget adjustment. What we are doing is asking that the board, at the end of budget hearings, they directed us to bring the proposed budget plus the modifications that were presented during budget hearings back to them for final budget adoption. We are asking that this modification be added to final budget resolution that will be brought back on October 1st for adoption. So we're just asking that this number be, instead of 30,000, which will no longer, which based on the bids that are coming in, will not cover the cost of the vehicle, we're asking that that number be increased to 35 to be placed in the victim witness budget when it's brought back to the board for final consideration on October 1st.
okay, so then that is allowed because the final approval will take place for the final budget, which will be properly noted. This is just more like a direction given to staff to include it in.
Yes.
Okay, so I double check.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, so, any questions from the public? Comments? All right, so with that, I would entertain a motion.
Okay, motion to approve 2.6 at $35,000 is requested.
Second that?
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved, thank you. Item 2.9, ratify Sheriff Saxon's signature on amendment number 5 to agreement with the USDA Forest Service Shasta Trinity National Forest, adding an additional $10,000 in funding to conduct operations to suppress manufacturing and trafficking of controlled substance on or affecting National Forest Service lands. Additional revenue in the amount of $10,000 to the sheriff's budget for a total of $39,000.
Kay Graves from Lewiston. I have questions that they pertain to both 2.9 and 2.10. So, I mean, you could do them separately, but to save time, we could just do them as the question pertains to both. In the documents, it actually says that the operations include on or affecting the administration of the National Forest lands. The on part makes sense because that would be the Forest Service administered land. And I'll point out that they repeatedly refer to it as administration and not owned. So if anyone wants to let Representative Huffman know that they still don't own the land, here's another document that shows that. I would like to know what affecting the administration pertains to. There was, and I'm assuming there is now, an MOU between the Sheriff's Office and federal agencies, specifically the Forest Service, but I would hope the BLM and any other federal agency that comes into this county on an agreement on what they're allowed to do as far as law enforcement. They're not allowed to just come in and run around and do as they please, though they would. It's not legal. And so I would like, since Sheriff Saxon's here, if he could explain the affecting part. There's on, that would be within the boundaries, and affecting the administration. That's pretty vague. So I would like to know what that that encompasses, and if we could see the MOU, any MOU with the Forest Service and federal agencies pertaining to the authority given to them by the sheriff. And I also thought it was funny that the Forest Service says that the Trinity County Sheriff's Office retains the authority to eradicate cannabis plants from national forests or national system lands without reimbursement from the U.S. Forest Service at its discretion. Well, of course they do, because the Sheriff's Office is the law enforcement in this entire county. So I just think it's funny that the Forest Service gives them permission in this document that they can do what they're already allowed to do. So, thanks.
Thank you. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Board. With regard to this document, yes, I have signed documents that I've given authority to the Forest Service law enforcement agents to assist us in eradication on Forest Service property within Trinity County. This document here, I have signed agreeing to accept an additional $10,000 during this federal fiscal year to assist us in eradication efforts on Forest Service lands on both the Shasta Trinity Forest and in the Six Rivers National Forest.
Okay.
I hope that answers
Thank you
the
very much.
questions. Thank you. Do you have any other additional questions for me?
The specific question, though, from the audience was on versus...
This particular effort is on the national forests only.
So it might affect it also.
The eradication efforts are within the forest boundaries, not outside the forest boundaries. So if the eradication takes place on the forest, the eradication, the growing in the forest could affect something outside the forest, but the eradication itself is only taking place within the forest. Does that answer your question, sir?
That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, you have a motion to approve 2.9 as presented, and thanks to Cheryl.
Second?
All right, thank you both. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved. Thank you. Item 2.10, I assume the same question. I'll read it since it was pulled. Ratify Sheriff Saxon's signature on amendment number 5 to the agreement with the USD. A Forest Service, Six Rivers National Forest, adding an additional $10,000 in funding to conduct operations to suppress manufacturing and trafficking of controlled substances on or affecting National Forest Service lands. Additional revenue in the amount of $10,000 of the sheriff's budget for a total of $30,000. Same question.
Yeah, it is Kay Graves from Lewiston. It's just, you know, if it's going to be within the boundaries of the National Forest, they should make that clear on or affecting the administration of National Forest System lands. Makes it more vague. And I would still, and I can ask Sheriff Saxon later if we could see a copy of any MOUs he has with the agencies. So I'll do that separately.
Thank you for your comment.
And I'm on the next one, so I'm just loitering.
Oh, okay. So with that, I would entertain a
Motion to approve 2.10 as presented.
Got a second?
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so moved. Thank you. Hold tight, Kay. Item 2.11, adopt a resolution which distributes excess proceeds from the 2017-2018 tax defaulted property tax auction. Revenue in the amount of $7,539.04 to the general fund, not budgeted for or in the 2019-2020 budget. Your comment or question?
Kay Graves from Lewiston. Sorry, I forget about the non-page breaks in these. This is in consent, and taking people's property has always bothered me. For whatever reason the county sees fit to do it. It's complicated. I think some of it's illegal. adding code violations to it, et cetera, other things added to our property taxes. Well, the other thing that bothers me is that this isn't, not only is it in consent, the information that we're being given is being choked off once again. We used to know what you sold the properties for. And I don't know if it's come up with these properties on another agenda or not, but it's just, the extra money you made off of it, the whole process itself of how people get the excess funds due to them back has been explained in here before, and I just think this shouldn't be in consent, and that you people should be more forthright that you just took a dozen people's properties. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public on this item? Okay, board members, questions, comments?
I just have one. These properties would have already come in front of us before the tax lien sale, is that not correct?
Thank you for that clarification. All right, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Who's my second? Jim?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Is this a resolution? Yeah.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Finley?
Aye.
Supervisor Brooks?
Aye.
Supervisor Chadwick?
Aye.
Supervisor Thomas?
Yes. All right, thank you. Okay, right on time for a public hearing. Item 3.1, conduct a public hearing to consider adopting a resolution approving the Community Development Block Grant Program income waiver application. No impact to the general fund, potential revenue in the amount of $111,111. Good morning, Susie.
Good morning. Susie Cockums, Grants Coordinator. Before you today is an agenda item for the final leg of the Community Development Block Grant Program Income Waiver Request. If you recall, I came before you in July for the initial phase, which is called the design phase. The final phase, which means it's gone through the entire process for the exception of the stamp of approval, has already happened. When I came before you in July, we came with two waiver requests. One was for the fairgrounds for lighting, and the other is for Trinity Center's fire apparatus structure. Unfortunately, the fairgrounds request did not make it through the approval process. And there's, I kind of want to say, an appeals process going on right now for that, more to come later. But the Trinity Center fire apparatus structure is moving forward, so the resolution in front of you in the public hearing are requirements to hit that final leg and get that stamp of approval. Great. And just for clarification, I know the agenda item states that there's potential revenue in the amount of $111,000. That's revenue for the structure itself. The funds for this project are coming out of existing program income funds, so it's not an additional amount of money that we're getting. We're actually going to give the 111 out of our program income account to the project itself. And that project has $390,000 in leveraged funding that the Trinity Center Fire Department has already gotten dedicated to the project.
Great. Questions, board members?
Yeah, who makes the final decision?
There's a program department lead in the CDBG division that makes the final stamp of approval, but it's got like 12 layers. I mean, I've been at these two particular projects for over 6 months.
But if it was part of our monies already allocated for this?
It's funds that we loaned out
Right.
to entities, whether it's through economic development or housing rehabilitation that comes back into one pot of funding. So we can locally make the recommendation to the state, and then they end up putting their final stamp on it. And there's multiple layers of threshold requirements, like it has to be public benefit, it has to serve a low to moderate income community, which kind of puts part of our county, certain sections of the county out of contest for funding.
So I would guess that mainly they're just looking to make sure that we're not trying to pull a fast one
Yeah.
to take that money out.
Yeah, so the public hearing is the public input component of it. That's one of the thresholds that you have to pass. You have to have 2 public hearings. We did the first one in July. At least 30 days later, you have to do the second one. So there's multiple layers of that, if you will, checks and balances.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
Any questions, comments from the public on this item? Okay, bring it back to the board.
So we're just asking, we're just approving the fact that we've had a public hearing?
Input from the community and the board is essential for the application phase, which you've just done, and we're going to adopt the resolution allowing us to submit the final leg of the application process.
But it doesn't say adopt the resolution on the agenda.
Yeah.
Adopt the resolution. As a matter of fact, Madam Chair, if you're ready, I'll make the motion that the board adopt a resolution approving the Community Development Block Grant Program Income Waiver Application, item 3.1.
I'll second.
All right. Thank you.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Chavez? Aye.
Supervisor Groves? Aye.
Supervisor Bennett?
Aye.
Supervisor Moore?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. With that, I need to take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
So quiet,
Because they're so small, it's like they just look at it. They can bang on you, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you ready for this?
Am I ready?
Thank you. All right, reports from department heads. Anybody?
We cleared them all out.
All right. Report from CAO.
Just to follow up, I was asked by the board to check on why some of our older information is not on our website, so worked with Tina and Susie. And prior to Novus, we didn't really have an information management system. We were just using PDFs and putting it on. So Tina's been working on that, and you are, what, up about 2017 now? Yeah, so she's going through and putting that information back on. So it's tedious, but she'll have that on as soon as she can.
Great, appreciate it. Thank you, Tina. All right. Members of the board, Supervisor Chadwick.
On September 7th, at the Poker Bar Owners Association annual meeting, we had a community fire safe awareness. Andy Reiling from the CAL FIRE, he's the battalion chief. John Holland, who is the chief at the volunteer Douglas City Fire Station, and then Charlie Hothos, he's the TCRC&D. We signed up a lot of people for Code Red. It was well attended, and we'll be doing a follow-up this spring and summer with some organized community clearing. I've checked with Director Tippett, and I'm going to follow up with that. Hasn't been roadside clearing there. They used to get it quite a bit. It's partially county road, and then it's private road. So on September 9th, the All Chiefs meeting in Beaverville at the Fire Hall. Also on September 9th, I started a class. It's through NACO. It's a high performance leadership. The class, it normally costs $1,500, but I was awarded a scholarship, so I was really fortunate. It's a 12-week course. September 10th, I met with Caltrans. For some reason, the crosswalks out in Hayfork by the schools haven't been done in a while, and we also have a situation at the far end of the elementary school where the public is requesting a signal light for the pedestrian, the children's crossing. There's a dairy store that sells alcohol next to the youth center, next to the tire shop on Highway 3, directly across from the park where the crosswalk, actually that one is the best crosswalk, but that corner is notorious for high speeds and people backing up out of the dairy store and out of the tire shop. They can't see the kids at all, so hopefully we'll be able to work with the state of California, and I've talked to Dr. Coons going forward on trying to figure out a way that we can partnership with Caltrans to get that light in. We also had the budget hearing on the 10th.
Early Childhood Education Local Planning Council, we still are missing a person from the public with children. And PATH met that day, September 11th, the CEQA presentation with members, Madam Chair Morris and Jeremy Brown, Supervisor Brown, and also Richard Horde and Diane Stewart were in attendance from the planning committee. The 12th was down in Reading, chaired the NorCal EMS, and then on the 13th had a meeting with Dr. Coons, Jeffrey England, Susie Cockums, and Letty in regards to the food bank. That concludes it.
Great, thank you. Supervisor Brown?
On the 11th and 12th, I got to spend 2 wonderful days in beautiful downtown Wichita for the TMC meeting. Interesting things that came out of the TMC. One, there was a scientific paper discussing that the water in the river is too cold for the tar and the smolts, and maybe we need to raise the temperature of the water. I didn't laugh during the presentation, I swear to you. And secondly, that Humboldt has not done anything towards their 50,000 acre feet allotment, and they have not started the environmental document yet. So those are 2 things that would pertain to this board.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you. Supervisor Blue?
Yesterday was burning for PSA 2. Missed you there. No.
Right.
That's my out-of-county travel.
Thank you for making that short. Supervisor Brown?
On Thursday the 5th, I attended the Willow Creek Fire Safe meeting because their Fire Safe Council overlaps all the way into the Burnt Ranch. I felt like I needed to be a part of that and see what their plans are, what their needs are. They asked me to join the board. I cannot join that board because we sit on the other board, the one that votes on those grants. So I'll be informing them I cannot do that. But I'll be attending those meetings monthly, and I think it's a good way to bridge some of the community gaps and what's overlapping and make sure that the RCD and the Fire Safe Council are aware of what each other are doing and working together. On the 11th, I headed to Washington, D.C. We were invited to the Arizona, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Nevada, New Mexico, and Utah State Leadership Day. It was pretty cool, I've got to say. This administration is the first administration to invite all county officials to these meetings. There's probably 150 elected officials there. And we had a 5-hour discussion and panel about all of the big issues in the country. I don't know how much detail I should go into, but we got to hear from Department of Agriculture, Department of Interior, Department of BLM, the Parks and Wildlife, EPA, the Western Trade Representative, the Drug Czar, the Office of Management, Budget, Transportation, American Innovation, Urban Development, and from David Bernhardt, Department of Interior. Some of the cool things that I learned, besides being the first administration to invite all the elected officials, there was talk from the selective service system encouraging us to encourage all people that are turning 26 to register within 30 days to make it fair for everybody. There was talk from Karen Budd Fallon, who is the Assistant Secretary, where is she? Sorry, Deputy Solicitor for Parks and Wildlife. She talked about NEPA and how they are working really hard to lower the NEPA process. They said, I think it was approximately 200 something plus days they were taking to review NEPAs, and they're getting it down to a 27-day review process. And that was also reiterated by Secretary Bernhardt. He said that the EISs used to be 2,000, 3,000 pages long, and now they've changed that process, so they're 150 to 300 pages long. They got rid of a lot of middle management, so to speak, so it's an expedited process, so they say. So we might be able to reap some of the benefits of the expedited NEPA process regarding some of the fuel break projects, other things RCD and Forest Service are trying to get accomplished. Chris French from Department of Agriculture, he said that they are really interested in what they can do to help bring back productivity to local economies that are surrounded by or inundated with federal land. They're looking at shared stewardship opportunities, and one of their third biggest goal is to increase their customer service. They want to know what takes too long, what needs to change. My impression was that they're eager to get input from counties, and so over the next month or so I'd like to try to get some input and test them on their offer of answering questions that revolve federal land ownership. Okay, this could be a great opportunity. If you give me some code sections and things like that, I'd be happy to email that. We got a bunch of good contacts that you can't find online at all. Office of Innovation was pretty cool. They're open to any kind of innovative ideas. Just go for it. I love ideas. I think they're neat. Jim Carroll, the director of the, verify that before I say that, the DEA, he talked about how they issue $40 billion a year for drug addiction programs that fund 786 programs across the country. Between 18 and 20 million Americans have addiction, which is a lot of people. And 93% of heroin is coming from Mexico, 100% of meth is coming from Mexico, and China is responsible for all the fentanyl, according to them. They're going out to China to talk to the Chinese about trying to limit the number of chemicals being sent to make fentanyl, essentially. That was the main gist of it. It was really neat. We got the tour of the White House. Mike Pence came in and gave some little spiel, and I believe that is about it. I had a webinar on targeted grazing yesterday. I couldn't hear it all because I was on the road, but it was down in Sacramento, the governor's task force committee on forest issues, and they talked about how grazing can be used mostly for rangelands and grasslands. It wasn't so much about forests, thick forests, but there's a lot of grazing activity going on out there, and big companies are getting started where they offer to bring 5,000 goats to the area. They bring herders, they fence it, they scope these projects, and they are coming around multiple counties around California doing neat grazing things, high intensity grazing. And that's about it.
Real quick, thank you, that was a great report. Did anything get brought up about SRS or PILT?
The NACO was there doing the PILT thing on the 11th, so they had a big convergence of elected officials and their staffers, and they spent the whole day going to all of the different congressmen, I assume, or senators' offices and discussing PILT, but as far as the details of that, I'm not sure.
Was WIR there for PILT? Do you know? Kevin Pan.
NACO was there. But
Okay. Probably, I think we had a whole contingent there on that topic.
Jeremy, did they give a presentation on WOTUS, the Waters of the United States?
No, there was no presentation.
All right, no out-of-county travel per se. I do want to announce a couple things. During our CEQA presentation, Director Hunter mentioned that the workshop on the EIR would come to the board on October 1st. She has decided to move that to October 16th. Also, starting in October, I believe, led by RCD, there's a big community county tour for input on the wildfire community plan, which is about to get updated. So everybody is asked to come to those meetings. They have a list of dates throughout the county and your districts. And so those are just two announcements I wanted everyone to know. And board members, thank you for checking in on my little out-of-county travel that involves surgery, but I should be back to playing volleyball very soon. I've never played volleyball.
A question on the October 16th meeting, is that in the afternoon?
I don't know quite yet,
Okay.
but don't forget it is a Wednesday.
Okay, it is a board meeting day also.
And it is a board meeting, so it's just, they will be next week taking the EIR workshop to Hayfork, at which point they will take input from the public and then package that up and bring it to us, and they needed a little more time, so that's why they went to October 16th date.
When is it going to the planning commission?
Well, it's the planning commission will hold that meeting next week as a workshop,
Oh, that's,
and then all that input will be brought back to us for our workshop. At that point, we will go through all that and then give further direction, which then will go back to the planning commission. So that's kind of the sequence of events. All right, moving on from ad hoc committees, commercial cannabis ordinance amendments.
Nothing here to report.
Yep, nothing here either. Keith?
no, I missed the
Yeah.
ad hoc because I was in the kitchen.
Federal lands legislation?
Nothing, but maybe Jeremy could relay that grazing information onto John Driscoll.
Yeah, I'm more than happy. Yeah, there's a big push for some grazing, so it's a good time, I think, to bring that issue to the light, and I'm more than happy to reach out to them and let them know that I think there were 85 people on the webinar alone, and then from the clapping and laughter I heard on the thing, it seemed like maybe 50 were attending there in Sacramento.
Also, just a little bit more precise, this is not a free range or open range grazing currently, it's for
It's
fire control.
targeted grazing,
For fire
specifically it's
control.
through, I think it's called RMAC, I believe is the acronym we're looking for. Yeah, RMAC targeted grazing.
Just to make it clear, you're not interfering with the current contracts for open range or free range in the county.
No.
Okay, that's all.
Thank you. Okay, and retail cannabis?
On September 4th, Supervisor Brown and myself met with Director Kim Hunter and Leslie Hubbard, and that was the first time that we had opportunity to meet with the new director. So just kind of gave her his story and where we're at and where we thought they were or should be. Jeremy, was there anything else?
No, I think it was we just discussed everything that's led up till now.
Okay. And again, thank you, board members, for checking in to see if I needed anything over the weekend. People brought some food buys, because I can't cook. People would argue that I can't cook anyway, but especially with one arm, but. All right, moving on to county matters. These items include non-routine or controversial matters and are listed alphabetically by department. A member of the board or staff may request that an item be heard out of order. I am going to move item 5.2, if that's okay with our treasurer, up. That's to approve the Trinity County Annual Investment Policy, no fiscal impact. So we'll get you on your way, treasurer.
This minute has a fiscal impact.
Good morning. What you have before you this morning is the annual investment policy. And for this year, we basically haven't made too many changes. Last year was, I made a lot of changes in regards to just providing more detail and descriptions and glossaries and things like that, so that we provide more both to you all and then also to the public. So this year, there hasn't been any significant changes to date.
I have this year. Okay. Questions, board members? No. Anything, since you made those changes last year, did anything develop as a result, like any of the pots of money that you do manage for? Did you hear from any of those entities, or?
I actually received a lot of feedback. A lot of people like that. So if you aren't in the investment world, so it provides a lot more information, and then also providing the codes, the government codes that support the different things that we're doing. So I did get a lot of feedback, positive feedback.
Okay, great. All right, any comments, questions from the public?
Okay, Graves from Lewiston. In the backup for this, it says that the Treasury Oversight Committee was ended by the Board of Supervisors back in May 2016, which was news to me. I mean, stuff gets buried in the agendas, and I guess it wasn't obvious that it was going through, or I would have said something then. But I would like the board to reestablish the Treasury Oversight Committee. It was stated by Ms. McBriar when she was running in a candidate night in Lewiston that she ended it because it wasn't well attended, it costs money. But in fact, it was being attended by the public. John Hamilton suggested that we start going to it, so he, Diana, Sheen, and I did. We went to the first meeting, and I know they were surprised to see people there. And when we went to the second meeting, I think they were quarterly, they said they didn't have a quorum, and then when we were waiting for the next meeting, they told us they abolished it. Yet we all go to the meetings, and we obviously missed that during the board meetings. I would like the Oversight Committee reinstated. It's not that big of a deal. It's 3 to 11 people. So I think that shouldn't be too overburdensome to fill. The Oversight Committee serves a vital purpose. Government code, and this is government code 27130 for anyone playing along at home. The county, this one specifically is 27134. The County Treasury Oversight Committee shall cause an annual audit to be conducted to determine the county treasurer's compliance with this article. The audit may include issues relating to the structure of the investment portfolio and risk. There's other things that the County Oversight Committee literally oversees, and it's important. I mean, I'm not saying that the treasurer is doing anything wrong, but this is a purposeful measure for a watchdog group, and it should be reinstated. The reasoning that I heard out loud for it to be abolished wasn't true, and the public was attending. This is a public meeting. I would like you guys to reinstate it. I'll go back and look at the resolution that slipped past us where it was abolished. Thank you.
Would you like me to speak to that?
Sure. So if I recall, you were having trouble getting members, not the public necessarily, but the members who were actually should be attend.
Correct. And the purpose of the oversight committee is not to direct the treasurer on how to do business or what to invest in. We do have some members of the public that that's what they thought that that was for. In regards to the cost, there was a cost to it. If we have a meeting and we're required to be audited, the audit for that basically consists that it's because it is subject to the Brown Act. So did I post the meetings and do I follow that? So it, in my opinion, is an unnecessary expense for the pool. It's about $3,000 to $4,000 a year. I am audited routinely anyhow to make sure that both the investments, the term, the if I'm invested in certain funds, it's to make sure that those things are in compliance with what they are, or what's required of me. As far as the public, I do have members of the public that choose to meet with us. I just did not feel that it was a prudent expense for when you can, don't have a problem meeting with people anyway. So, but that's what that's about, so.
Thank you. Board members?
I'll say I have no problem with reforming it if there's a need. My recollection was I was a little nervous about abolishing it in the first place, but it was stated that it was very difficult to put a meeting together and people didn't show up. So since I was not on that, I can't speak to that directly.
And those folks who would attend that meeting, if I recall, Terry, were a representative from the school, special districts, those whose money that you kind of help manage.
The school district was actually they were actually part of the oversight committee. And I do meet regularly with the, well, I shouldn't say regularly, when they would like, I meet with them. But they were on the board. I did discuss that with them prior to coming to you all about canceling or just disbanding the oversight committee. But for years, the only attendance we had, and what they were referring to, they attended probably 2 meetings, and that was it. So they were not actually attended. So, okay.
You showed up, you
Thank
got
you.
it.
Board members?
Ready?
Yep.
Ready? I'd like to make a motion to approve 5.2 as presented and accept and approve Trinity County Annual Investment Policy.
Did I?
Second.
Supervisor Brown, second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved. Thank you, Terry. Thank you. All right, moving back to 5.1. Pursuant to Trinity County Code Section 8.90.170, consider Bobby Ray's request for exemption from the code enforcement appeal of $1,050, potential loss of revenue to the general fund in the amount of $1,050. Okay. So is this county council, or how would you like to take the item?
I'm happy to take the matter on this. I'm just looking to see if the proponent is available, in which case you would swear them in and then you would question them accordingly. Make a determination of whether they qualify for the policy.
Her letter said that she's going to make it.
Was anyone here representing Bobby Ray? No?
I see.
So they cannot make it unless someone's representing them, but I don't see that.
Correct. We have allowed in the past people being represented by folks. Unfortunately, if someone is not present for the hearing, you can't put them under oath and question them, so you can't obtain the requisite information to bypass the determination that they wouldn't qualify. Unless you feel you have significant information under oath that you can utilize, which based on the review of the agenda item, I don't believe you have here.
Okay. So at that point, this would not move forward. And do we need a motion or anything to it?
That would be requested a motion to formalize it.
Okay. Did you have a comment, Kay?
Yes. Kate Grace from Lewiston. The Board of Supervisors is a legislative body, and you have no authority to swear anyone in under oath. If someone wants to give you a written affidavit and swear to perjury, under perjury of law themselves, then they may, but you as a body have no authority to have someone be sworn in. You are not judicial, you are not quasi-judicial. Thank you.
All right, so I would take a motion to.
Deny, motion to deny as presented.
I'll second, and I have.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Further discussion among the board?
I just would like to read her letter into the record. It's already there, but I want it. It says, I'm writing to request the fee for an appeal be waived. I cannot make it to Trinity County on September 17th for the hearing. I am 75, retired and poor health, and I'm on limited income. The fee would be a hardship.
Where was that sent from?
Bobby Ray, Santa Cruz. I was going to get there, John. So, council is saying that's not enough evidence.
Is there a way that she would be allowed to do this over a phone or some type of electronic device?
Yes, that's a possibility if they had requested that prior. I have seen these types of hearings, well, mostly for Board of Equalization hearings being conducted via phone. We don't offer that as a possibility, but if they had requested it, we would have had a discussion about it. In this case, in my understanding, that wasn't requested.
My last question is when somebody appeals, are they given, or can they request a package asking what they should submit during the appeal?
I'll turn that over to Tina. I believe when they appeal, we give them the notice of the date of the appeal hearing. And as part of that, there's a notification of how many copies of documents they have to bring. So they're aware they have to bring their appropriate documents and how many copies of them. Is that correct? That's correct.
So it would say, bring your IRS papers or...
Any documents you need to submit. We also have an opportunity if they have confidential documents such as tax returns that have social security numbers. We do have a method in place and we do provide them information about how to submit that under seal so that it's not, doesn't become a public document.
All right, I'm done.
Now, can she request another appeal, or no, does this take care of it if we?
No, she would not be requested because she would have to have a payment in by a certain date. And if you deny it, then they've already made your determination and it cannot be referred.
And remind me again, what is the payment for this appeal? That's right. Okay.
I will make a motion for a subsequent that we waive the fee.
I have a motion and a second. I need a second if it's to continue.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Is this the official policy that someone would go through when they are in a low income position to have a fee waived?
Yes, if they are low income, correct.
There's no other way of them declaring that as a mechanism for exemption?
No, this is the process they'd go through if they have evidence that they are low income and would like to provide that to the board for consideration.
So that was not provided, it's just a verbal statement at this point?
Correct, all you have everything that was provided.
So I will say in the past that people have come in with their tax returns and income 1099s to show that they are low income.
Does anybody know who this person is?
You might want to have done a little bit of research before. Google or whatever. It's there.
It's in Hayfork?
It's in Santa Cruz, or
The
property, yes, never mind. I'm quiet.
So Margaret, had she been able to attend, would she, as Supervisor Groves pointed out, and as we've seen in the past, be able to provide us with the income documentation of her low income to make the case to waive the fee?
Yes, that would have been the opportunity.
You know that she would be able to do that? Or
Oh, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what
She'd
she
be
would
allowed
provide.
to
She'd
do
be
that.
afforded the
That's
opportunity
what I meant.
if she had it to provide,
Yes.
yeah. I don't, again, all we have is what's before us, but that would have been the appropriate opportunity if she had documentation to provide it.
Would you bring that today, because it's something you may not want online for the public to see?
She could have sent it to us also.
Correct. We do have a procedure in place to keep documents confidential if appropriate.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion, a subsequent motion, and a second to waive the fee. All right, so I'm going to call for the question. Any other further discussion? Yeah. All right, all in favor? To waive the fee?
What is the next option?
The next option would be your motion.
No. All in favor?
Wait.
We have a call for the question on the subsequent question.
Right?
Appears to have died.
Okay. Okay. So it died for lack of,
Response.
yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought we were having a roll call, so I apologize, I didn't respond.
Okay, so I'll do it again. So I'm going to call for the question on the subsequent item, which is to waive the fee. No roll call, this will just be all in favor.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Aye. So that failed. So we'll move on to, well, kind of answered our question anyways, but for procedure purposes, we'll go to Supervisor Finley's motion to deny. I believe the motion was to deny?
Yes.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor to deny the fee waiver?
Aye.
Aye? Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so the fee waiver has been denied. All right. Moving on to, that was our last closed session, will be our last item, 6.1. Government Code Section 54956.95. Liability claim, claimant Jared Ennis, claim number TIBR-550505. I'm going to repeat that one more time, 550505. Agency claimed against County of Trinity. Anyone wishing to comment on this closed session item? Nope. Okay, we will move into closed session.
Board met in closed session and the release of the item was executed. Right, meeting is adjourned.